episode 682 of Lucas Tigers and Bronzo Mine. It's gonna be it's a fun one. It's the day before VCon for me. So right behind me is the Whatnot stuff that's going out within 3 days. We have submissions coming back. Promise you guys. We have a lot of awesome stuff, and I hope it's a great episode that you guys thoroughly enjoy. Please smash the subscribe button. Leave us some comments. Our comments have been popping off, and we try to respond to all of them. Please know that we read them all, even if we don't respond.
Can I read one to you, and you tell me what you think?
Yeah. Why not?
I got one that just came in.
Just came in.
Literally came in 10 minutes before we sat down to record. I was going to take a picture of it. I was going to post it. And what's funny about it, it's from. I'll give the person's name. It's from Grandpa Pokemon. All right, which you think, okay, it's just Grandpa Pokemon. He's got like 3,500 followers. Clearly a heck of a Pokemon collection. Also a bunch of Topps Chrome in here. Looks like some breaks. There's some vintage. Somebody who's been around the block is what it looks like, right? Okay. From North Carolina. So Grandpa Pokemon. I appreciate the comment, and here it is. You tell me what you think. Interesting week on the podcast. Grandpa Pokemon, please forgive me if you sent this to me and didn't want it read to thousands of people, but I'm taking the opportunity anyway. Tell me. Right? Interesting week on the podcast. The documentary guy talks about overbidding on a card to create a market for the other cards. Then the AIH, Andrew is handsome. Somebody listens to our episodes. Andrew is handsome. Guy talks about buying low-grade non-rookie cards, hoping they'll go up to $30 to $60 in a few years. Both discussions mention the problems with shill bidding. Cage, you are our only hope. I feel like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Please help people realize shilling is not a sports card thing. It is an auction thing that happens in many industries. And market manipulation also happens in many industries. Everyone wants their stuff to be worth more to increase its value. It's not a sports card thing. Ask 90% of day traders who lose money. Ask the 90% multi-level marketers who realize their product has no real value. You conquer shilling by doing exactly what you and Andrew are doing. You're discouraging people from buying what everyone else is buying just because everyone else is buying it. Thanks for bringing awareness and education to the hobby. Keep up the great work.
What do I think? I think
we have some smart listeners.
there's theorists and practitioners in life. It's. I mean, there's probably a third category that does nothing, but theorists understand conceptually how things should work. But because they're not really in the weeds, they kind of sit above us and they're like, this is wrong. But they don't really point out solutions, right? Then there's people that are in the weeds, the man in the arena. And what I like about you, Cage, is though you have a lot of experience and you could be a theorist, you still continue to play the games. You still continue to learn. You're not adverse to try. You're
and losing.
Right. Like Top Shot, NFTs. You're someone, let's not even go digital. You're someone who probably loves vintage cards the most, but that didn't shy you away from buying shiny Devontae Grahams when they were 33 cents and selling them for $5.
Blue Circle Jason Tatums that are in vogue again.
So I agree you're our only hope. I think there's a lot of good, intelligent people in the hobby. I really do. There's really a lot of smart people, but you're towards the top, and that's because I think you're a practitioner. I think
here's what I was expecting from you. I'm going to show you this. Look at that message. You see that? What do you do? Too long didn't read. That's what I was expecting. You're like, that's one message? No way. That's why I sent it to me, because I'll read it. Send that to Andrew.
My asked me, she's like, how do you get? I just skim 6 different lines.
Just a gist. You get this, you get this, you get like one thing. You know, you get a little gist here and you get a little gist there. That's good. I mean, I get it. It is what it is.
I love our community. These are. I'd rather us have. You know, I want us to have 1 million subs. So please smash us a bit. But like, you know, I went to a game yesterday, a Heat game with Flushing Breaks. Awesome guy. As soon as I told people about Flushing Breaks, Mike from Flushing Breaks, I called Cage and he said, "Dude, that guy always has a smile on his face." And this is someone who's, I mean, he's dealt with a lot of things. He went through he lives in New York. There was COVID, different jobs. Guy always has a smile on his face, always hustles, always brings value. We went to the Heat game with him, but he's like, you guys are really in a unique position because think about it. Yeah, there's pages out there with 40, 50, 60,000 followers, but that's a different metric than someone sitting for an hour consuming your content and then actually thinking like Grandpa Pokemon about its real life application. That's a deep level of connection with the people that are in our community.
People are buying inflation indexed treasuries because of us. I mean,
thanks for the Alpha Cage. Can you send me the link? Is there a Luca Nation referral code with the treasury?
That would be great right now. No, none of that. But people have cash. They put their money in a little short-term, short-term place.
Tomorrow, Luca, the Tigers and Browns is sponsored by the Federal Reserve.
You would not like that. You don't want the federal government anywhere near us.
You guys know the Federal Reserve is not a federal property; it's a private property. It's actually not a federal.
It has nothing to do with the federal government. Yes, I think it is interesting. But let's not go down that road, man. I mean, the IRS came after you once. We don't want that to happen again.
Dude, yesterday was one of my most fun days in a long time. So I was getting ready for VCon inventory. I don't know how much inventory to bring. I'm not like a dealer, so praying that it all goes great. But we're gonna have some wax. I
can tell you what I'm excited for. I'm excited for this weekend's content.
Generous. They sent us an open wax that we're gonna have a wheel for people at VCon. We're gonna spin the wheel, and if they hit something, they get to open the wax. So, thank you, Panini. Go ahead.
Stop by, show your tiger, spin the wheel. Show your tiger NFT.
That's true.
Show your tiger NFT, spin the wheel.
So Dave's Cards, if you're listening, I don't know why you wouldn't go. We have. Hit me up. Go ahead, Cage.
Dave, listen, another audience member who's awesome, who, volunteered to, airport rides, tell you where the great food is, that kind of stuff. Take you ice fishing, Minnesota stuff.
By the way, the great food, I know how Google Maps works.
Yeah, but we still couldn't get Bertoli's. And you were like Pertuzzi's, we still couldn't get there on time.
Crazy, man. That was crazy. We waited in line for an hour. I had to hail a cab because it was like Lollapalooza and girls were walking around half naked, so they got priority. But then they got to the front of the line and then they jumped out of line to get back in the cab.
Yeah, because you got a cab. That's it. Get to the front of the line. I'm not waiting 40 minutes for food. When the cab's there, I'll get some food. I could order Uber Eats on the cab ride back and have it in the hotel waiting for me. I'm too smart. I'm playing chess.
Experiment was terrible.
I'm playing chess. You can play chess. But what I was saying is the content from this weekend is going to be awesome because you have VCon on the one hand and the Dallas show on the other. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on this weekend.
You said that people didn't used to go to shows like they do.
They didn't. 100% no. I mean, people went to shows, but it wasn't packed. It wasn't smelly, deodorantless, just wall-to-wall people and BO. Go ahead.
Think about the last 2 weekends. 4 shows, but basically going to be filled to the brim. Like, if you're talking about health of the hobby in terms of participation, Autograph Fest and Costa Cards were awesome shows same weekend, and there's enough people. And that's just East Coast. They're like within, 100 miles.
You know what's funny? To me, that shows kind of a morphing of it because the shows used to be like Old National. It used to just be a bunch of tables like the East Coast National at Hofstra, which I think they even have a moment of clarity themselves and decided to have a trade night for the kids, which we went to, which was awesome. They've never done that before because, but Autograph Fest, I mean, Mike Tyson.
They listened to our show and they heard you were upset with them the first time.
Maybe they did. I mean, maybe they did. Who knows? Maybe they did. And great, mission accomplished. But Costa Cards, they have it at Fenway. People went there. It's an event, right? They were able to put the sponsors' names up on the scoreboard at Fenway. I would have went, but the first time I go to Fenway is for a Yankees-Red Sox game. I couldn't go for a card show. I'll go to the next card show. Costa Cards, I heard it was a fantastic show. I heard Rick Probstein also put on a fantastic event, like a great venue. Some great content came out of that from, Don Diego. She was there. Just like a bunch of people. Mojo Autographs was there. So some great content from them also.
I have a theory.
Shoot.
I think these influencers get a little bit of hate because the way it's not easy to create the content they do. Like the videos, the way they do them, the way they're edited, they are entertaining. And like
I'm becoming a video editor myself, so it can't be that hard.
Well, it's not hard, but you have to do it consistently.
Yes, this is true. I have my next idea, by the way. I was doing it as you messaged and said, let's record now. I was in the middle of a video edit. So there'll be a video edit probably coming out before this episode releases. I'll have a nice little video edit out. A typical old man phone. Did you see my most recent post? It's It's Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo next to each other, and I said I'll tell my grandkids that this was Cage and Andrew doing an episode.
what I'm seeing is you're motivated. You're getting fit. You're getting stronger.
Down 20 pounds.
Drinking
in
water.
less than a month.
And
The diet for the national.
we had. Did you watch the Heat game?
I watched every second of it because I knew you were going to be there fashionably late, but I knew you'd be there and you'd have some questions for me. Although I did turn on the Yankee game a bunch of times because the Yankees, when Aroldis Chapman comes in, no lead is safe. And he got the save, but he did give up a run. And they almost tied it up on him. Aaron Judge had another 2 home runs.
Because all he throws is heat. It's really not that hard to hit
he's just not.
Let me rephrase that before I get there. If you're a professional baseball player, yes, 100 is fast. But if you know where the pitcher's going, you just have to be a little early.
You're not saying anything needs to be corrected. If you're throwing it straight and you're throwing it fast, the major league hitters will hit that. It's got to move. You got to do something different. And when he doesn't have control of his fastball and he's working on his off-speed stuff, they smash it. So, like that like button.
Can I ask you?
Subscribe. Yeah.
Let's have some fun. NBA playoffs. So Juiced Cards in our Discord said, I love the ideas that you guys brought up of drafting the 10 best guys left in the playoffs. This is my take. Luka's number 1, Steph 2, Tatum 3, Butler 4, Draymond 5, Brown 6, Bam 7, Smart 8, Brunson 9, Clay 10. I'm going to ask you the same question, but cards. Give me, in that order, whose cards you would buy.
Okay. I love that you went Luka before Steph, but you are on some form of drugs, obviously.
Recency bias?
Yeah. I mean, Luka's great and all, but, no. That's not the case.
What if he beats the Warriors?
It doesn't matter. He's not the best player, right? He might be the best player now, and then I'll be that nitpicky guy. Do you mean like I'm drafting a team? Who am I taking first? Like the best overall career. You know what I mean? Like Luka doesn't have the best career. I mean, that's clearly going to be Steph.
I think we'd be naive to assume that people, when they're watching sports, aren't more likely to buy cards, right? So, I think NBA playoffs, you want to have some stake in the game. People might be looking at cards. It might not be a short-term flip. Maybe now they believe in Luka more than ever.
Yep.
Give me your order. Would you be buying Jason Tatum cards?
So Tatum's tough, man, because I think Tatum has already had a little bit of a run, and I think the upside for Tatum is if he wins a championship. That creates a floor, right? That creates he's now in a different conversation. And because then he's like, wow, could they repeat? Could they add somebody? Could he be a multiple title winner? He moves into potentially Giannis territory, 1 championship and young enough where there could be more. And maybe he's in the top 5, top 8 MVP conversation. And maybe he wins an MVP and he becomes that type of player. But I think that if he doesn't win a championship, if he doesn't win a ring, his cards go down. So I'm not buying him because to me, the upside is significantly less than the potential downside because his cards are already moving up now that, he's had the success that he's had. And as great of a playoffs as Luka's having, you got to give the Celtics a lot of credit. Celtics took out Durant and Giannis. I mean, let's not, don't poo-poo that. The Mavericks took out the Jazz, who basically took out themselves, right? And a Suns team where I don't know what kind of joke Booker was making. They were all dancing, and Booker said he had another game in Istanbul. So I don't know what the hell is going on over there.
What did he say?
He tweeted I didn't show up. I'm human or something like that. I had another game at the same time in Istanbul. I don't know what the hell he was talking about. But Constantinople, Istanbul.
Nothing from CP3. Not really in his vibe to say anything.
No, he had to film a commercial.
That sucks, man. Such a good season, and now there's so many questions about that team. It's such a bitter way to end a really good year, and not just a really good year, a really good 2 years. That sucks. Sports are evil. They're not evil. They're cruel. Cruel.
Yep.
Is the word.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, I mean, listen, it shows you how difficult it is to win a championship and why then when the team does make it through and somebody wins, you only get so many chances to be on a team that's going to give you a chance to get there. Why, when you win, why it impacts the player's legacy and the cards that much. You know what I mean? Because it's hard.
it sort of makes me appreciate LeBron a lot, if I could be honest with you.
True. So I saw somebody put up a little picture. It was like Eastern Conference Finals MVP for the last 20 years or something like that. And like LeBron was 2/3 of the pictures, you know?
He made it look so easy too, right? Like just even getting to the finals. Like you saw the Suns, you'd be like, wow, this team is so good. They're playing so well. They're shooing to make it to the finals. LeBron made it look like this with ease with players who I don't even know where they'd be playing today. There's a Jonas Sigalskis.
Yeah. I mean, it also, you go to the other side of the equation, it also gives you added respect for Steph, right?
Why?
Because Steph is going to get there for the fourth time. If he makes it there, right? You know what I mean? Like it's great to have a dynasty and the team is great and you're the best and you're the cream of the crop and you're best in class. They were humbled last year. It was him and nobody. They still got to the play-in. And this year they didn't have the team they were expected to have. Clay was injured still for a lot of the year. Draymond was out for a lot of the year. Steph carried it, played great, had fun, played with a smile. They had no Wiseman now for 2 years. That guy, where the hell is he, right? And think about that team if they drafted LaMelo at the second pick instead of Wiseman. Remember, they passed on LaMelo to take Wiseman. Think about that for a second. Imagine the Warriors with LaMelo. Be interesting.
Where would he fit in?
They could have traded him for anybody who's tall. The point is they got zero out of Wiseman. Where would he fit in? Put him on the bench. Let him carry Jordan Poole's
jockstrap
towel. Who cares? He's going to give him more than what Wiseman gave him, So the point is they've literally got nothing from the second pick. So
how old is Wiseman? He's like 20 years old, dude.
Yeah, he played one year, which was only a couple of games at Memphis.
He just turned 21, which is
I'm not giving up on him. I'm just saying this year they're making a championship run without the guy who was the number 2 pick 2 years ago. Like that. That shows you the depth. That shows you the organization that they can. I don't want to say swing and miss because you said he's 20, 21. Jury's still out.
But he didn't play a lot in college either.
He played like 2 games because the Penny Hardaway, like eligibility bullshit at Memphis. But I give Steph some credit, man. You put some players around. Look what he did. And obviously, he's got great players. Clay, Jackie Moon, borderline top 75 player of all time. They have a real great chemistry. But if he wins, he has 4. LeBron has 4. I watch kids play. We talked about this yesterday. I watch kids play. They don't say LeBron. They say Steph. They say Kobe still a little too.
So I fucked up. I put all my eggs in the Giannis basket where I should have spread them to the Steph basket.
No, listen, Giannis, your theory on Giannis is smart because Giannis has more gas left in the tank than Steph. Giannis came, 5 years after, right? So you would think when Steph is done, Giannis still has 5 years at a high level. Steph's already on the decline is what you would think, although nothing showing that in his game presently, right? But you would think that Giannis has more upside than Steph does. Steph has a lower floor. So, the thought process in prospecting and picking the younger guy, Giannis over Steph, because Giannis has the potential to win many more MVPs, many more championships, is what the thought is. And Steph may go out there and win another championship, and all of a sudden, it's an interesting thing.
I think another thing is how he'll play in the finals. All right, so that's going to be interesting to see. Do you think that the Warriors beat the Mavs in the series? Do we want to do a prediction?
I do. If you remember the last series, I did not say Dallas was going to win. But I can pull the quote, say that Luka will will them to not be swept. You said sweep, by the way. You said they were going to get swept.
I was really wrong. I doubled down when they were down 2-0. And, dude, hats off.
I said Luka will find a way to at least get a win. He'll carry them. Brunson has been a revelation. But what's funny is, when did they trade KP? Because I looked at some stats today, and their team from January on is just a completely different team. I think they're number 1 in the league in 3-point defense, which comes into play when you play the Warriors. And in all other defensive categories, their worst rank was 6th in the NBA. They were averaging about 4th in most defensive categories in the league after the Porzingis trade. Think about that, right?
You got me thinking, man. I'm sure you've seen this. You know how the NFL evolved from a rushing era to a passing era?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Defenses also had to change, right? Like the 1985 Bears defense would get smashed today, right?
Yep, 100%.
we haven't seen as we haven't talked about that shift in the NBA, but that shift happened, and now it's not about defense; it's about your 3-point defense. I think I actually hurt the Bucks because the Bucks live and die by the teams taking threes, and they pack the paint. Incredible! You have Brook Lopez and Giannis. If they were playing in like the 80s, forget about it. No one would score. There wasn't even a 3-point. Interesting that you got me thinking of like, wow, the best teams now are the teams that could defend the three.
Yep. And the Nets couldn't do it. The Celtics beat them. And the Bucks couldn't do it. In the 2 big games, the Celtics shot like 50% from 3, including that game 7. And the Bucks weren't rotating to the 3. Why, even after all that, why I say the Warriors is, yes, the Suns have depth. But what's amazing about the Suns, and I've said this now for 2 years of the podcast, they shrink when they're pushed. They're like the bully that gets punched in the nose and then disappears.
In 88, we could have said that about the Bulls, though.
Yeah, but then they evolved. They changed their team, right? And the Suns haven't done that, and maybe they will next year. But yeah, as of 88, you did say that about the Bulls. If the Suns come back and are different next year and get tougher and decide they have to, take Dennis Rodman, or they have to be more physical to beat the Pistons who are beating them up, great. They made the change. They decided that they weren't going to let Jordan get his ass beat, right? The Suns, however, it's more than that.
The Suns don't have a Jordan. Let's be really funny.
The Suns have a Booker. And if I'm holding Booker cards, I'm nervous. Really? Because this poor guy right here, Cage, I'm the one who I saved Ja, and I got my ass handed to me about Ja. But you know what happened? You know what happened with Ja? People don't like him anymore. He looks, he's out, and all of a sudden he's like one of the hated men in the league, right? And
Booker, we and I had some arguments, and you were 100% right, because you said he shrunk last year in the finals, and again in a huge game he shrunk, right?
Yep.
And I was like, no, you learn from the defense, but how many times? Enough with the Ja hate. Ja's not even in it.
People don't like him because of I guess the way he behaved then after, and the whole the dancing and that stuff. But that's not an excuse because he's not winning, right? And I give people crap, but listen, it is what it is. I say what I said about Booker. Booker was a ghost in the finals last year. He didn't show up. He's your superstar, and if people are going to say this kid can play like Kobe, well then show up. Show up. The Suns should be embarrassed about that Game 7. Embarrassed. They didn't even show up. I don't know.
Kobe would have shot 40, 50 shots in that game. What are you doing right now?
Nothing. Keep talking.
Are you texting someone? On our show? I'm kidding. Kobe would have shot 40, 50 times in that game. He would have never allowed.
Yeah, just keep going. Just keep shooting. That's the thing. Booker, gone. Chris Paul disappeared. And, it's not like Dallas was beating them up. It's not like Dallas was some superior team. Look, Luka had a great game. But by the third quarter, it was done. They just basically gave up. And if Booker's legacy right now is, sure, he can score, but when it's time for him to show up when they need him, he's not there. And you only forgive that so many times. You're only going to be – look, Chris Paul is 37 years old.
Chris Paul.
And he's the point guard, but his skills will deteriorate. It happens, right? It just does. And, Mikal Bridges may get better. DeAndre Ayton, may decide not to dance as much before the game. I don't know what happened.
That Lamine story post is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
It's very funny. But Booker, done. I don't even care. I wouldn't buy Booker cards now. And maybe that's a mistake. Maybe he'll next year they'll win 80 games and he'll run through the playoffs and he'll win a championship and people will play that back and say, you hated Booker. And maybe I'll have to buy in then, at a higher price, and I'll be wrong. I doubt it because usually you see what you need to see. And it wasn't like he lost, but he went down swinging. Those guys they weren't even there. So I can't see Golden State doing that. I can't see Golden State being that type of an opponent for Dallas. And Golden State is coached well. I know Monty Williams is great. We give him his due. We give him his credit. But you have to know, even if they got to put Draymond on Luka, they're going to do something to say, we are the Golden State Warriors. We are the NBA dynasty. We are the best team left in the playoffs. And if Jalen Brunson is going to beat us, if Reggie Bullock is going to beat us, so be it. We'll let them beat us, but we're not going to let Luka beat us. They will find a way to lock Luka down. Now, locking Luka down means he's still going to have a 24-point triple-double every night, but he's not going to go off for 40. He's not going to, he's not going to be able to do what he's doing, to these other teams. That's my take.
What do you want to talk about next? So I have two topics.
Mm-hmm.
Buying football quarterbacks. And I want to ask you if Burrow and Herbert you think are a buy. Or I want to get a little serious because I want to hear your true take on what someone should be doing in this market, right? We've had a few interesting guests on where they're saying, AIH is talking about a recession coming in a year and a half. People are seeing their cards drop in value. There were posts from Slab Stocks that do a great job from a data perspective to see how assets are performing compared to the S&P. So there's that. Show bidding, etc. If that's real, if it's fake, if it's exaggerated, whatever. What are you doing? Are you buying? Are you hold? Are you in? I need to make sure I'm selling some of my junkier stuff to have liquidity. How are you playing this, man?
A little bit of everything that you just mentioned. So I'm not buying anything crazy. I'm not buying anything like ultra modern, anything prospecty, anything like that, right? I am definitely consolidating a lot, even at a loss. So people want to know, I posted some, and we'll go through this. I posted some cards that I had in PWCC weekly auction this past week, and they sold for good prices. Well, let's hope they get paid for. So we'll deal with that in a second, but let's hope they get paid for. If
I think in the high 90s is PWCC's payment rate.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, listen, it just ended, right? It just ended on Sunday. So, people take their time to pay. I take my time to pay sometimes. Most of the cards, let's go a step further. Every one of the cards that I sold, that I purchased last year, I sold at a loss. There were some cards that I sold at a gain, but they were the ones that I bought in 2020. We're talking about like I bought a Mookie Betts gold card for like $300, and it sold for like more than $1,000. Like smaller ones, but like every card that I bought. So what happened was last year I sold some stuff in the first quarter, end of the first quarter, and I had some money, and instead of pocketing it, I didn't think it was the peak. I didn't think June of last year was going to be the highest. Instead, I said, what, I'm going to buy some cool Jordan cards that I like. And this is a fun way to talk about it, right? Cards that I like. And I bought them. And I wanted buying them basically the peak of peaks, right? I bought it like right at the high. So I'm not immune to this, guys. We get these messages all the time. I bought it at the wrong time. I got some sports cards. I got some Tyler Heroes. I'm never going to get my money back. I kind of regret buying any sports card I ever bought. Like, we get those messages. We really do. And I made the decision on these cards that even though I'm probably only going to recoup 70 cents on the dollar on these, I'm taking that out. And I did. And what's funny is, for a minute, when the auction ended, I was angry. I was like, how could this only sell for this much? Like, I paid 18 and I'm getting 12? Like, how is that possible? What's the story here? Why would I do that? And you realize when I paid 18, the couple sales before it were like 13 and 14. The sales after it was 16 and 15. You know what I mean? And so I really caught like the top. And, it was a run up. It was FOMO. It was like one of these things. Not to mention, the card's not numbered. Some of them are, but this card in particular I'm talking about is not numbered. And it's one that I happen to like probably more than most people like. It's not one that's being chased. It's not one that's
Is this a Jordan card?
Yeah, it's Jordan.
90s?
90s, yep.
PSA 10?
Mm-hmm.
You sold it?
I sold everything almost. So
That's impulsive.
no, it's very thought out
I like that
because
card.
I believe. Well, I haven't said which one it is, but whichever one it is, you're right. I've sold. So but what's funny is after the anger, I said, you know what? Let me see what I sold, because remember, this part of the story here was I sold stuff in March and April and bought this stuff in like June, right? So the money was in the account. I just used them, and I looked at the stuff that I had purchased that I sold to buy the stuff, and that stuff was down like 60%. So had it's rationalization, and sometimes we have to do this in the hobby, right? But I sold something and bought something else. The stuff that I bought is down, but it's down 30%. Had I just held the original stuff, I'd be down 60%. I'm going to count this as a win.
Why did you sell though? This stuff is some of the things you bought were sick.
Because I don't believe that is the best place for my money right now, and I believe that the prices will continue to come down on certain items. I believe that I'm old compared to where the money is in this hobby, right? And I believe that the stuff that I collected that I like is 4, 6, 8 years too old for the money in the hobby to like. So the numbered shit, the PMGs and so on, the stuff that Nat posts about and makes everybody chase, that was when I was in law school. You know what I mean? That was when I was in, I wasn't collecting anymore. So my stuff misses that window. Right? So I'm in the wrong couple of years for the chase. Now, in 10 years, will those cards be worth more than what I sold them for? Most likely, yes. But do I think I'm going to be able to do something with my money in the short term that's better than the decline that those cards are going to see? I also say yes.
So then why not consolidate and buy one LeBron Exquisite from his 03 year?
I might. The LeBron Exquisite's a little bit of a tough haul. Trying to get $800,000-$900,000 together might be difficult.
But is that what you mean in terms of?
That is exactly what I mean. That is exactly. I might be selling $10,000-$15,000 cards to try to get something that's 100 or 150 or 200. Sure.
From the 2000 to 2010 era, you think that's the era that's the nostalgic?
It depends what you like, right? So you can go a bunch of ways with it. You can buy yourself, one of the Steph Curry top cards that's in PWCC's auction ending tomorrow night. Their premiere ends Thursday. You could buy one of those if that's what you like. If you're a Giannis believer and you think his prices are not going to be as high as they otherwise would have been because he just got knocked out, there's some awesome Giannis cards in there. If you're a Mahomes person and you think Mahomes cards are going to go up coming into the season, there's some great Mahomes RPAs in there. You go a bunch of ways. You could also buy a Mickey Mantle. You know what I mean? You could also buy a Ty Cobb PSA 7 T206. And those are not cards that are going to fall precipitously. And if you buy a Mahomes, you run the risk, not just of injury, but you run the risk that maybe he comes back down to earth a little bit. If Russell Wilson shows up and shows out and Justin Herbert takes a step forward and all of a sudden the Chiefs are third in their division and maybe don't even make the playoffs. What happens to Mahomes, $100,000 to millions of dollars RPAs then when he might not be that guy? It depends on your risk. And it depends on what your belief is in those guys. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. My take on it is consolidate, have the powder dry, because if something comes up that I like, I want to be able to jump on it if there are other people panicking when things get worse. Does that make any sense?
It makes a ton of sense. it's so hard to time the market, right?
You can't. And I could very well be wrong.
There's still a ton of money in the system.
Sure.
Right? Like real recessions come when there's a shortage of liquidity. I still feel like there's a ton of liquidity.
There definitely is. There's definitely liquidity. There's definitely liquidity, especially at the high end. But it's an interesting thing because with the current state of the market, you have more people attempting to defend it. When a year ago, no one had to defend it because you would be attacked for attacking it. You would be thought silly for attacking the card market as an alternate asset. Look at the charts. Look at how much it's gone up. Everybody's making money. Everybody's doing well. But now you have people coming out with posts like, look at this one's down. Look at this. Look at these cards. Look at Luca. You know, you have people like the Ravel article, right? And it's reasoned and thought out. And, you know, I'm sure the pushback, you know, from the hobbyists will say something like, those people just bought the wrong thing. All right, well, that's 90% of the people who got in the last couple of years, right? So all of them bought the wrong thing? Okay. Can I take this another way, right?
Sure.
Because that's just me and my collection and the whole deal. I had a moment today where I agreed with a lot of what Chris Hodge and Josh are saying, if they really are saying this, right? So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for the hobby to become more of a hobby again and less of a industry. Because I'll tell you, I'll throw it right out there, right? When COVID started, my son and I used to open a lot of stuff. And when COVID started and he was stuck home and the whole deal, I promised him, I'll get a box of cards every Friday. We'll open it. It'll be what we do, right? And we started doing that in March of 2020, and we haven't missed a Friday. Even when I'm at Mint Collective, I'll do it by Zoom. I left the box for him, you know, to find on Friday.
You're a man of your word.
We try to, you know. So in 2020, when we wanted to open a nice shiny box of Revolution, it was $100. You know, in 2019, right? We went to a card show and bought a retail box of 2018 Prism basketball with Luca, you know, the green one with Durant on the packs and stuff. I paid $100 for it at the White Plains show for a box of 2018 Prism retail.
So
right?
wax is up now. So what?
My LCS messaged me today and said, hey, my credit card just got hit. You want a box of Mosaic soccer? And I'm like, all right, what's the price? And guess what? I got Impeccable basketball coming in. You want a box of Impeccable basketball? I'm like, that sounds awesome. Like, I remember opening Impeccable 19 when it first came out on Mealy Pops, breaking it and getting
And if you guys don't know, it's the third tier. It goes National Treasures, Flawless, Impeccable. It's still, Impeccable, still very nice, but it's
real
like
nice. Yes. And I remember getting a Tyler Hero, like silver logo man in 2019 on a Mealy Pops break. And, you know, like
you probably sold it too soon. You didn't know me.
I sold it immediately. I sold it for like $100. I didn't care.
Hero.
I sold it for like $100 right before Bubble Hero. Definitely. I was like, who's this guy? But it was reasonable enough to break those.
So stop. I'm hooked. How much is it? Is it $1 million?
Impeccable?
Yeah.
Almost $3,000 for the box of Impeccable.
How much was it before?
Not that. 1,000, 1,500, maybe even less. The Mosaic soccer is like $300 and something. You know, hoops is like $300-$400 when it was $85. You know, like, so I will tell you, I got those
for people just to take it the full is the product inside is nowhere near to recoup that 3,000.
So here's where my brain went with it, and try to follow me down this path here, right?
Dude, you're Alice. I'm just following you.
My brain went to this. When I was opening Revolutions with Ian and Hoops with Ian and cards with him, we were opening these boxes for $85 or $100, hoping to get a guy he knew. He was looking for Spencer Dinwiddie cards at the time. I mean, you know, like he was collecting nets, you know, like, you know, he was 5-6 years old, you know, it was Karis LeVert, you know, he was, you know, Torian Prince.
Theo Pinkston?
Yeah, well, I mean, Jared Allen later on. I mean, you know, he's collecting these guys. I was like, you know.
Let's just keep going. I don't know why.
So,
I'm sorry.
It wasn't until, you know, late 2018, 2019, that people started buying these boxes to grade the cards. Okay. And when you bought the boxes to grade the cards and you were grading the cards for $10 each, you were buying a box that was like an early Top Shot pack. You were buying a box that was EV positive, because what would happen is Topps, I've talked about Topps flagship, you'd pull out, the rookie, you'd pull out the Aaron Judge, you'd pull out, the Ohtani, you'd pull out the Acuna, the Sotos, whatever it was who was in there, the Tatis. You'd send it to PSA. You'd send to all the rookies. You pay $8, $10 to grade the cards. You get them back within a reasonable amount of time. And even if you didn't hit a Mondo Auto, even if you didn't hit a Gold, even if you didn't hit a big star guy, because you were paying $100 for the box of hoops, because you were paying, $200 for the box of Prism, when you got it back, you got $65 back for the Luka PSA 10. You know what I mean? You got $40 for the tray, $30. All of a sudden,
maybe
and those were the base
EV
cards.
Positive though, Cage, because remember what we saw with
exactly. So that you're with me, right? So what happens when it becomes too EV positive?
Like a hand in a glove is what they say.
People start sending it in, and everybody tries to do it. Everybody buys those packs, right? Everybody jumps on board the grading. The grading starts to back up. The fees start to go up. And we find ourselves where we are right now, which is $50 to grade a card with PSA. Which means if you're opening a box of hoops now for $400,
and the wax has gone up, let's call it conservatively.
So the wax went up because of so now you took something that the wax was probably too cheap and the grading was probably too cheap. And now you're in a situation where the wax is too expensive and the grading is too expensive to grade the normal cards you're getting out of the box. It's not too expensive if you want to grade a $1,000 card for $50. Okay, fine. But chances are you're not getting a $1,000 card in there. So it becomes a situation where even the bad boxes you could recoup because of the grading and the whole deal. Now you have a situation where you can't grade anything really, any of the normal stuff. Because grading is too expensive, the wax is too expensive, and the boxes have gotten to a point where it's so EV negative that I don't want to buy them. I'm not going to open a box of Impeccable with Ian. I'm going to lose $2,000 and know I'm going to lose $2,000 right off the bat. You know why? Because maybe it's got a shot of what? I don't even know. Cade Cunningham something, RPA? Okay.
Is it the towing of the line? You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be too far here and too far here.
I think we've gone too far here. And what I guess my hope was, where my brain went, was almost longing for a time where maybe people realize that Revolution, Hoops, Donruss are almost ungradable products. And if they're ungradable products and they're so EV negative, that maybe there's less people who are going to buy into them in breaks. Less people who are going to, to actually buy these things. And maybe the price has to come down because people, look, I'm going to start it myself. It used to be I would get a text every week from my LCS and I would say to them, I don't care what it is. I don't care what the price is. Let's go. Now, real quick, I'm telling them no more often than not.
So, and we'll maybe talk chicken or the egg, but there's a correlation between grading prices and wax.
Yeah. Yeah. No, because listen,
grading prices go up. So wax is cheap, grading is cheap. Everyone sends. Wax goes up in price. Then grading goes up in price. So what will come down first?
Because the wax was cheap enough that everybody wanted it because they knew that even if they didn't get something fire in the box, they were able to grade what they got and get their money back. So what happens is everybody, but I think it has to be the wax, certain wax, in response to this, right? So it's sort of like we talk about like Luka, right? Luka's high-end stuff is great. It's still maintaining its value. It never really came down. But Luka base, Luka silver, the price came down, right? I think that's that type of striation. I think that separation, that's what you're going to start to see, I think, in wax. It used to be, it didn't matter what it was, people will break it. There's been, we're a breaker, and we're getting in hoops this week, and it's all sold out. Buy into your hoops box, get a random team for $1,000 in the box, or whatever. I'm making a joke, but really, they would fill it. It didn't matter what it was. Crap in a box, So clearly Donruss wiped my ass. Exactly, clearly Donruss. So,
I have a clearly Donruss card right here, D'Angelo Russell.
I swipe your ass with it. Just because you run out of toilet paper, you got it. So there you go. So actually, those clearly Donruss would probably be uncomfortable.
Yeah, paper
but plastic. They're like acetate. How's that acetate? So Yeah, exactly. So I think what will wind up happening is smart enough people who are going to remain in the hobby will not be opening Donruss for the prices because there's no reason to. You're not grading those cards. You're not reselling those cards, right? So, and even SGC, who sponsors the podcast, you're not sending a Cade Cunningham hoops to them for $30 to hope that it tens and you get 35 back.
What I'm seeing that really works with SGC is actually vintage ancillary players. Like in our SGC sub, we got some cool 100-year-old cards. I think they were from Corporal. Does that sound familiar?
Sweet Capital.
Yes.
T206.
Yes.
Not Corporal, which would be in the military.
But it was guys like no one knew. I didn't know who the guys were. It's actually only their first name, which was hilarious too. But and I have the cards written down, so I could probably pull them up. But that was I think that could work really well with SGC. But I've been following GemRate, and everyone was talking, CSG. They dropped their prices yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw. They barely got any cards in, because even great that the gem the CSG prices are very cheap to grade, but at the same time the resale value also is the same, right? So I think that this is very interesting. I think it's room for thought. So what I'm hearing is there's going to be a cream of the crop wax, but then you expect a correction on basically the bottom tier 80% of wax.
I do. I think we're having people exit the hobby. I think people are realizing the junk slab era that's out there and all that other fun stuff. Yeah, it's a lot. SGC, clear cut second, and CSG is not really grading too much stuff at all.
Yeah, 0.5. SGC 5.1 thousand cards yesterday. BGS 3.9. CSG 1,000 cards. PSA, PSA is going to be top, but I don't think it's fair to count. Like, I'd be curious how much of that's backlog and how much of that's new.
80% is backlog, they said. Right? Didn't they say that in the thing, that they're dedicating 80% of their resources to the backlog? So figure 20% is, newer stuff.
All right, let me run the numbers. So 37.7K.
So 7,500 is new stuff.
Yeah. So neck and neck. 30-40% higher than SGC, but still interesting. And I think that's important. I like this episode. A little lower energy, going into the weeds, a little bit, dirty.
It's just what I was thinking about today. And that's the cool part about doing a daily show, right? I'm telling you what's on my mind today. I got a message and I'm like, oh, should I open Impeccable with my son for Friday opening this week? No, I'll do a Hoops Blaster, please. You know what I mean? Like, because I know I can't really get too hurt by that. And a Hoops Blaster being $45 or whatever the heck it is.
Give him the slots analogy, right? You're in New York, so sports betting has to report.
Well, yeah, right. So it's like they're like racinos, right? That's what they call them. Like they're like OTB, like a race. It's like the OTB. Like they're at Aqueduct. The casinos are like run by the New York Lottery. Right, so it's
pause and look up every word in that sentence because I don't know what any of it means.
Race, like a race-cino, like a race and casino combined, right? So
horse racing, or
yeah, horse racing. So think of it that way, right? Casinos, I think Atlantic City, I think anybody with a gaming commission, that stuff, they have to publish what their payouts are. And most of these places pay out like, blackjack pays out like 93%. And, roulette's a great game, or craps is the best one to play. It pays out at 96%. And what that means is that allegedly they're paying out 96 cents for every dollar that gets gambled there. So, if in a given month, somebody spends $1 billion overall at the MGM Grand or whatever, $1 billion gets gambled, they're paying $960 million of that back, which means they're making $40 million. But it means that they're also not gouging people. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the difference, right? It's they're paying back enough money where, there are some winners.
What would you venture to guess is, obviously every product is going to be different, but like modern basketball that comes out in a year, what do you think the payouts? 30, 40, 50?
I think in an average break where you do like a team break, right? Pick your own team kind of break, and it's in a case, and there's 30 whatever teams, depending on what sport it is. I think on average, there's always going to be 3, 4, 5 teams that everybody wants. Ones that people will pay extra for and pick your own team breaks. But in the randomly assigned teams, there's 3, 4, 5 teams that everybody wants, right? The Lakers for LeBron, Dallas for Luka, Bucks for Giannis. Maybe if it's a LaMelo year, you want the Hornets. There's always that, and everybody's in the chat going, "Oh yeah, I got that one," or oh man, you got stuck with the Kings. Oh, well, at least you got Halliburton. He'll turn you into a bird. So, anyway, no Family Guy. No, all right,
not yet. So you're not gonna give me a percentage.
So I said, well, that is a percentage. If there's 30 teams and 3 to 5 of those teams, if you stretch it to 6, 3 to 6 teams are the ones that people will actually make money on, right? I would say that means 10 to 20% will do well. There might be another 10 to 20% on top of that might break even. The teams where there's a semi-star, maybe the Steph cards or Steph's a superstar, but you know what I mean?
40 to 60 is a healthy number for sports cards.
And I don't think we're anywhere near that. I think that the vast majority
because the rest can be covered by grading, but not 80%.
But let me say this though, right?
Sure.
There are probably people listening to this who are saying, "Who cares?" And that's fine, right? Because there are people who say, "I know what I'm getting into with the break." The same way I know what I'm getting into with a casino. I put my money in a slot machine. I'm hoping for a big jackpot, and I'm going to keep putting my money in until I get a jackpot or have no money. That's breaks. And if you understand that going in, that you're going to either be one of the rare ones that hits it big in this, or most likely not get anything at all or something small, in return, that's fine. That's your thing. That's your thing. But I think you wind up probably losing more people.
Well, certainly they understand why it matters, right? So you could lose people because of lack of interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like, I don't like the people or the vibe. That's one thing. But eventually you lose people because they don't have any more money. Like they're physically insolvent. Yeah. And if you keep losing on breaks, even the most degen, eventually you're like,
what's funny
I can't buy in even though I want to.
I want to say like breaks are against collectors, but it's not 100% true. You know what I mean? Like the people who sit on high on the Mount Rushmore of collectors in the hobby and look down on all of us and say, "I'm a collector. You shouldn't be here because you're not a collector."
I have a new definition of collector. I'll get to right after you tell me.
There are breaks where collectors could be like, let's just say you're a Suns fan, but you don't want to buy all the product, right, and open stuff up. You can buy into a bunch of breaks of high-end stuff and just get the Suns. And that way, every Suns card that comes out of those breaks are yours. You don't have to pay for the whole product. If a LeBron gets hit, so be it. You're not a LeBron fan. You're a Suns fan. That, I think, jives with collecting. But the whole, random serial, random spot, randomly assigned team, weight class for, UFC stuff. Yeah, they do breaks by weight class. Random division team. All those things, those are all random. Those are all people buying in, most likely, to hope they hit a lotto ticket scratch off and then resell that card for a profit. So collector versus flipper, the majority of breaking has nothing to do with collecting. And that's a funny thing, right? Because you don't hear the collector folks really going after the breaking industry. You hear them going after the flippers. But guess what? No flippers means no breakers, right?
You know how you said last year I sold all these cars. They're now down 60%, but I had money in my account and I wanted to, buy something else. I should have just held the cash. My new definition of collector is this. It's not by duration of how long someone holds something. It's if they keep the money in the ecosystem or not. That's my new definition. I'm curious what you guys think. Let us know in the comments. So what I mean by that is it's irrelevant if you sell a card that you've owned one day or you've held it for 10 years. But what matters is if you keep that money in the system, I believe you're truly a collector.
I think that makes you a hobby participant, not a collector.
Fine. Let us know in the comments. And we'll be back with you tomorrow, probably from VCon. Peace. Any final topics? I didn't ask you. I apologize.
No, I want to ask you. Game 1, Dallas, Warriors. Shoot. Quick prediction. Snap.
I don't know. I really don't know. I
I
apologize, Luka Nation. I'm not going to be that guy. I
think
know.
the Warriors win pretty easy, and it breaks the spirit. I know Dallas was down 2-0, and they showed some grit and stuff like that from a team. I think Dallas is flying pretty high right now. Reading their clippings, Luka,
Who's the best player in this series?
Kevon Looney.
I think that some people would argue that Luka is the best player in the series.
Yeah,
and
sure.
the second thing is what you said earlier is they're one of the best 3-point defensive teams in the league. That matches up really well with what the Warriors need to do is make their threes. They match up really well in terms of, the Warriors don't have any huge presence that's going to give the Mavs trouble. They're kind of very similar. That's why it's interesting, man. I'm very excited to see the chess match here. Jason Kidd has been an enigma for me because as a player, people forget how incredibly good he was. And as a coach, he had his failure, I think, with the Bucks. But what he's done with this team, especially on the defensive end, is it's just going to be such an interesting chess match versus Kerr versus Kidd, two former players.
Mm-hmm.
And then the team
Kidd was good enough to be drafted ahead of Grant Hill, by the way.
I mean, some people could make comparisons that Kidd was Luka in a lot of ways, right? A very strong, stocky guard that passes incredibly well, which Luka doesn't get.
He was pass first, though. He was pass first. Kidd was a pass first guard. I mean, he had some amazing passes at Cal. I think it was a Cal. I think he was a Cal Bear. He was pass first. He was not somebody who was going to go out there and score 30 points. He could fill it up if he needed to, but he was a pass first guard. I'm going to tell you what my take on this series is, and then I'll get your take on my take. I think the series comes down to who performs better, Jordan Poole or Jalen Brunson. It's the unexpected guys who have shown up and have gotten their team a little bit further. You know what you're going to get from Steph. You know what you're going to get from Luka. You know that Clay is going to pitch in. You know that Draymond's going to do his thing.
I think that's fair. I think Clay and Dinwiddie sort of cancel each other out in a lot of ways.
Good also. And Dinwiddie's a good shooter, and they'll each have good, times where they're hot and times where they're cold. And I think Brunson and Poole, they're kind of the guys who have stepped up in the playoffs so far. And
they're probably going to go against each other quite a bit too, right?
You would think. So I think, believe it or not, as marquee as this matchup is with Luka and Steph and the Warriors and the Dallas taking its next step, forward and Luka being the darling, Luka Magic, I think it really comes down to guys who no one's talking about. Well, Brunson and Poole, they're talking about in the playoffs, but I think it's which one of them can continue their Cinderella story through the playoffs.
I think the Suns were a much more challenging matchup for the Mavs. So it wouldn't surprise me if they won this series. But again, my two teams are out. I don't just make predictions on the fly because it's easy to change your mind. I don't like that. I'm enjoying this. These are one of my favorite playoffs. Love you, Luka Nation. Thank you all for listening to another episode of Lucas, Tigers, and Bronzo My. I wanted to tell you about a new service that we have starting as of today, and I'm really, really excited to bring it to you guys. So as a part of our partnership with SGC, we got 50 free submissions every single month. And many of you have taken advantage of that. And it's amazing that we could have the opportunity to 650 episodes, 675 episodes in, to go ahead and give back to our community. As people were sending those cards in, they asked, can we send 5, 10, 20 more cards to you guys? We'll pay for it, but we wanted them graded with SGC. You guys know SGC is turning cards around in 13 to 14 business days, have incredible customer service, and their secondary market values are going up day after day after day. And that's exciting for the hobby and exciting for the grading landscape. So we didn't want to just rush into it. We wanted to do it right. And what we did was I relocated here to Boca Raton, Florida. I opened up a P.O. box maybe 5 minutes away from SGC, and I will be hand delivering and hand picking up the cards. So you don't have to worry about anyone else touching your cards. It will be me, and I will update you every step of the way. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to personally pick up the cards from a P.O. box, prep them, new card saver, new penny sleeve, and deliver them to SGC every single Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Well, it lets the stragglers over the weekend come back through on Monday and gives me a day to prep, and it basically gives SGC the entire week to work on grading those cards. Once your cards pop, only then at the end of the process will you be paying for the service. It's $25 per card, Simple as that. And the turnaround times have never been faster. We're hearing right now 13, 14, less than 20 business days. So there it is. 9170 Glades Road. Number 135 is the P.O. Box in Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. 9170 Glades Road. Number 135, Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. Of course, you could shoot me an email or shoot me a text anytime, and I'm always available. Many of you already have my email. It's iamandrewgoldberg@gmail.com, or my cell phone number, 215-519-9154. Reach out with any questions. I could walk you through the process. I've hopped on the call with quite a few of you, and I'm happy to do that. Love you, Luca Nation.